Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to ABC Zodiac. If you're new here, welcome to the channel where we break down names, personalities, and zodiac signs in ways you probably haven't heard before. Today, we're talking about the name Alexander. Now, we all know an Alexander, maybe a few. It's a strong, popular name with a rich history. But what if I told you there's so much more to this name than just sounding regal and powerful? Stick with me because today we're going deep into what makes Alexander so fascinating. From their childhood struggles to their leadership tendencies, their complex emotions, and even a bit of their wild side. Whether you're an Alexander yourself or you know someone with that name, this video will give you all the insight you need. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, let's start with the basics. What does Alexander actually mean? The name comes from ancient Greek and it translates to protector of men. No pressure, right? I mean, if your name means protector, you're basically born with a cape. But here's where it gets interesting. This name isn't just about being a strong leader or a defender. There's a hidden complexity here. See, Alex means protector, and Ander means man. When you combine those two, you get this dual nature. Alexanders are both protectors and complex human beings. They're constantly balancing between being the strong one and dealing with their own internal conflicts. This duality makes them both powerful and, well, a little unpredictable sometimes. Think about it. If you know an Alexander, you've probably noticed that they can be super confident one moment, but then suddenly you see a different side of them. They might get introspective or even moody. It's like they have two sides that are constantly at play. And that's exactly why they're so fascinating. They're not just straightforward, they've got layers. Now let's dig deeper into what this duality means for Alexanders as they go through life. Let's talk about childhood for Alexanders. You might assume that with a strong name like Alexander, they'd be born ready to conquer the world, right? Well, not exactly. Many Alexanders actually start off a little bit on the weaker side. I know, surprising. When they're kids, they often seem a bit frail, shy, or even sickly. They might be more prone to colds or other health issues, and sometimes they don't come across as the confident, bold figures we associate with the name. It's kind of like their bodies need time to catch up to their big destiny. But here's where the underdog story begins. Alexanders have this hidden strength, and as they grow up, they start to tap into it. A lot of Alexanders end up getting into sports or some kind of physical activity to prove their strength, not just to others, but to themselves. It's like a personal mission for them to overcome those early setbacks. They become the classic underdog who rises to the top through sheer determination. I've seen this story play out time and time again. Maybe it's soccer, maybe it's martial arts, or maybe it's something more unique like gymnastics or swimming. Whatever it is, once Alexanders find their groove, they push themselves to excel. They're ambitious and competitive, and those early health struggles, yeah, they end up leaving those behind in the dust. They go from being the kid on the sidelines to the one scoring the winning goal. Parents, if you've got a young Alexander in your life, make sure they have opportunities to get active. Trust me, it can make a world of difference. Once they get into something physical, it's like they transform. Not just in strength, but in confidence too. And for the Alexanders listening, remember, your early years might be tough, but they're just the beginning. There's a reason you've got that strong name. You're meant to overcome challenges. Now, fast forward a bit, and you'll start to see another key trait in Alexanders: leadership. Seriously, it's like they were born to take charge. Whether it's in the workplace, their social circles, or even in their families, Alexanders can't help but rise to the top. You won't find many Alexanders who are content with just following orders or playing second fiddle. They want to lead the orchestra. What's really cool about Alexanders is that they're not just bossy or controlling. They're actually great at motivating people. They know how to get a team organized, and they're surprisingly fair when it comes to making decisions. Alexanders tend to lead with a sense of justice. They don't just want to be the boss for the sake of power. They genuinely want to make things better. But, and this is important, that drive to lead can sometimes come with challenges. Alexanders are ambitious, and if they feel like things aren't going the way they want, they can get frustrated. They don't hold back when it comes to calling people out, especially if they think someone isn't pulling their weight. And while this makes them great at getting things done, it can sometimes rub people the wrong way. If you're working with an Alexander, expect them to be honest, maybe even blunt at times. But you know what? They usually mean well. It's also worth noting that Alexanders often make fantastic mentors. They've been through struggles of their own, and once they're in a leadership position, they have this natural ability to guide others. They understand what it's like to start at the bottom and work your way up, so they're often the first to lend a helping hand or offer advice. They genuinely care about the people they're leading, which makes them stand out as not just good bosses, but great ones. All right, let's switch gears a bit and talk about something a little more serious, the wild side of Alexanders. See, with all that ambition and leadership comes a lot of energy. And let's be honest, sometimes Alexanders don't know where to channel all that energy. One of the biggest challenges for people with this name is their tendency to overindulge, especially when it comes to alcohol. Now, not every Alexander has this issue, but many do. It's like they're constantly looking for a way to let loose, to blow off steam. And for some Alexanders, that means drinking. And the thing is, they don't always know when to stop. They can get caught up in the moment, enjoying the social scene, the excitement, and before they know it, they're the life of the party. But not always in a good way. If you know an Alexander, you've probably seen this play out. They can be the one who's always a drink ahead, the first to raise a toast, and the first to reach for another. The problem is, they don't have that natural off switch when it comes to indulging. And when they start, they often don't know when to say enough is enough. For Alexanders out there, this is something to be mindful of. Balance is key. It's okay to have fun, but it's important to recognize when things are getting out of hand. If you're close to an Alexander, helping them find healthy ways to unwind, whether it's through sports, hobbies, or even just good conversations, can make a huge difference. Now, let's talk about Alexanders in relationships. And let me just say, Alexanders are charmers. If you've ever dated an Alexander, you already know this. They have this natural ability to make people feel special. It's not just about good looks or smooth lines. They genuinely know how to make their partner feel like the most important person in the room. Alexanders are the type to shower you with compliments, surprise you with flowers, and open every door for you. They're big on making romantic gestures, and it's not just an act. They actually enjoy being the romantic. This makes them incredibly attractive to others, especially when they're in that wooing stage of a relationship. But here's where it gets tricky. Alexanders can also get restless. They crave excitement. And if things start to feel too routine or boring, they might start looking for that thrill elsewhere. They need variety and adventure to keep them engaged. So if you're in a relationship with an Alexander, keeping things fresh and exciting is key. That said, when an Alexander is really in love, especially when there are kids involved, they can be incredibly loyal. Family tends to ground them in a way that nothing else can. Once they're committed, they'll go to great lengths to protect and support their loved ones. So even though they have that restless side, when they truly care about someone, they're all in. Emotionally, Alexanders are like a roller coaster. On the outside, they might seem super confident and strong, but on the inside, they're often battling with their own feelings. One moment, they're all about being there for you, being protective and loving. And the next, they might pull away and seem distant. It's not that they don't care, it's just that they need space to figure things out for themselves. This can make relationships with Alexanders a bit challenging at times. If you're with an Alexander, you might notice that they sometimes retreat into their own world. They need time to process their emotions, and they're not always the best at expressing what's going on in their heads. But here's the thing. Once they've had time to work through their feelings, they come back stronger and more present. The key to dealing with an Alexander's emotional ups and downs is patience. Don't take it personally if they need some space. They're just trying to balance their protective nature with their need for independence. And trust me, once they've worked things out, they'll be right back to being the strong, supportive person you know. Finally, let's touch on Alexander's emotional complexity. Here's the thing. On the outside, Alexanders often seem confident, even invincible. But on the inside, there's a lot going on. They're constantly balancing their role as protector with their own need for independence. This creates a bit of an emotional roller coaster. One moment, they're completely present and invested in the people around them, and the next, they might pull back and need space to figure things out. This can make relationships with Alexanders a little tricky. If you're close to one, you've probably noticed that they need their alone time to process emotions. They're not always great at expressing what's going on in their heads, and sometimes they just need to step away to work through things. But once they've had time to sort it out, they come back stronger and more centered. So, if you're in a relationship with an Alexander, or even if you're friends with one, don't take it personally when they pull away. It's just part of their process. Give them space, and they'll come back ready to be that strong, reliable presence you know them to be. So, there you have it. The full breakdown of what it means to be an Alexander. They're strong, driven, and a little complicated. They're leaders, charmers, and sometimes even wild cards. But that's what makes them so unforgettable. If you've got an Alexander in your life, you're lucky. Just be ready for the ride because with an Alexander, things are never boring. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today on ABC Zodiac. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the name Alexander, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more awesome content on names, zodiacs, and personalities. I've got plenty more coming your way, and I can't wait to share it with you. See you next time.